The Holy Grail is Christian, but it is also pagan. Today I'll be focusing on the latter, and next week on the former. But even today, you may notice Christian pre-echoes arise in these myths. In order to understand the Holy Grail, which comes to occupy the cultural heart of Britain, we need to go back to the original Britons, the Celts. When we look at pagan Celtic stories, we see many magic vessels, most commonly cauldrons, their main means of nourishment. Now, it's worth noting that the original appearance of the Holy Grail in Arthurian literature in Chrétien de Troyes' Percival from the 12th century, and what the word grail actually means is a platter designed to hold fish. And so the form is amorphous. And so this thread of magic Celtic cauldrons is the first that we will pull on. Welsh goddess of rebirth and inspiration, Ceridwen, brewed a potion in her cauldron that would grant her son wisdom and poetic abilities. This potion needed to be boiled for a year and a day, after which the first 3 drops only would grant the intended effects, and the rest would be poison. The goddess tasked a young boy, Gwion Buck, to stir the pot, but as he stirred, 3 drops of the potion landed on his thumb, and without a second thought, he put the thumb in his mouth to dull the pain. And instead, he, and not the son of the goddess, gained the wisdom. Now, this sounds a lot like the Irish story of Fionn McCool and the Salmon of Knowledge. And so if we take the sources of knowledge in both these stories, the cauldron and the fish, and combine them, we get something very much like our original Grail, the serving platter for fish. To continue with our Welsh story, the goddess chased the young boy when she found out, and in the pursuit, the two transformed into a greyhound and a hare, respectively, then an otter and a fish, a hawk and a small bird, and finally a hen and a single grain of corn, at which point Ceridwen the goddess swallowed the small boy, Gwion Buck. And in 9 months' time, when she came to be pregnant, it becomes clear that the potion also granted immortality as well. Keep these ideas of drinking vessels, fish, and everlasting life in your mind until next week's Christian Origins video, because I dare say they'll come up again. The small boy, Gwion Buck, when he was reborn from the goddess Ceridwen, became the wise bard known as Taliesin, who some believe to be a precursor to Merlin. Although many believe the earliest Arthurian Grail story to be Chrétien de Troyes' Percival story from the 12th century, as stated earlier, if we are loosening the definition of Grail to include Celtic cauldrons, then the Praethihi Annwn might just be the first. It tells the story of Arthur and his men seeking the cauldron of Annwn, guarded by 9 maidens in the Welsh otherworld. This cauldron may in fact be the same one from our last story. Moreover, this story was originally credited to the 6th century Taliesin, the bard who was once the small boy who stirred the goddess's cauldron in our previous story. The cauldron of Annwn was a cornucopia, providing bountiful nourishment for heroes, and yet it would not serve cowards. This is similar to the cauldron of Dagda, which never ran dry. From Irish myth, it is one of the 4 treasures of the Tuatha De Danann, the Irish gods who became the fairies. More importantly, these cauldrons are similar to the Holy Grail, which produces any desired food or drink to those in the Grail Castle in Wolfram von Eschenbach's Parzival, or in the French Quest for the Holy Grail, in which it nourishes the Knights of the Round Table in a final feast. Closer to the original Percival story by Chrétien de Troyes, where the Grail contains a single communion wafer which sustains the maimed or wounded king, is the 7th century voyage of Mael Duin, in which there is a hermit on a sea rock who is sustained daily by liquor from a magic cup, as well as a piece of fish. Now let's look at a second connection to the pagan Celts. Going back to Chrétien's Percival, the Grail procession includes not just the girl holding the Grail, but a boy holding the lance, later identified with the spear of destiny that pierced Christ's side on the cross. And running from it is a single drop of blood. In Irish myth, the spear of Luin Celhar needed to be quenched in a cauldron of blood before going to war. This is very similar to the spear of Lu, one of the 4 treasures of the Tuatha De Danann, alongside the cauldron of Dagda mentioned previously. The spear is described in the Children of Turian, where the titular characters kill Lu's father, and as punishment are sent to Persia to retrieve the spear, which was kept in a vessel of water, like a cauldron, to prevent it from burning down the palace. Perhaps there are similarities between these pagan stories and the Christian Malory's The Death of Arthur, in which Balin wounds the Fisher King with the Spear of Destiny, causing the castle to collapse and the land to be laid waste until the coming of the Grail Knight. Our third link is the pagan giant king of Britain, Bran the Blessed. It is said he gave his daughter to a king in Ireland, and the dowry sent with her was another magic cauldron. But this time it did not merely nourish, but could restore the wounded back to life. When Bran found out that the Irish king had been abusing his daughter, he waged war against him and was wounded in the leg by a spear. And in Celtic society, if you were wounded, you could not be king, or the land would be a wasteland. Here there is a clear connection with the wounded Fisher King and the Grail. At this point, the cauldron had been destroyed, and so Bran tells his warriors to cut off his head, but not to worry, as it will continue feasting with them. This may originate as a Proto-Indo-European story, as you see parallels in Ymir from Norse myth and the Greek Orpheus as well. Interestingly, in the Welsh Arthurian story Peredur, son of Evranulf, it is Bran's head that appears in the Grail procession on a platter. In Robert de Boron's romance Joseph of Arimathea, where the cup is first associated with the blood of Christ, the Fisher King is named Bron, clearly linking him to the giant king of old. We have talked about two of the treasures of the Tuatha De Danann, the cauldron of Anun and the spear of Lu. But just briefly, as we end the video, I want to see whether the other two, the Stone of Destiny and the Sword of Nuada, tie in with the Arthurian myths. Turns out these four have actually been linked with the Grail Hallows, 4 items present in the Grail Castle. Percival is granted the Fisher King's sword, crafted by the master smith Trebuchet, but which he is told will break at a crucial moment. Zooming out slightly, an important sword is also clearly present in Excalibur. The Stone of Destiny is represented by the silver platter, which is separate from and comes after the Grail in the procession in Chrétien's Percival. This also has links to the Stone of Scone, which is said to have originally served as the biblical Jacob's pillow when he dreamed of a ladder to heaven, before travelling to Egypt, Spain, Ireland, and finally Scotland, and on which the Scottish kings were crowned. If you would like another point of contact involving the goddess of the land of Ireland offering up a cup to the rightful king, or if you would like the pagan Scythian origins of the Holy Grail, let me know. And stay tuned for next time when we learn that the Christian elements of this story are not merely tacked on, but have roots that go just as deep as these. And if you feel you can't wait, remember that many say that it's not the Grail itself that enriches, but the quest to seek it. Cheers.